Hi, this is Derek from the Pilgrimage Podcast with my co-host,
Hugh.
and we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff today. We're going to be talking about our upcoming tours, both the Gold Mine, the Central Cemetery Tour, and Derek's, uh, I guess the best way to put it, Derek's Fat Kid slash Anti-Campsite Cooking Tour. We're also going to get into our trip we just got back from this weekend for NEK's Overland Safari and how amazing that was. Hugh's going to talk about the difference between wheeling in the 9,000 pound Land Rover Snatch and Brady's amazing Pinzgauer 712K. And then we'll do a finish with a walk around tour of our Pinzgauer 710M. So, Hugh, why don't you tell us about last year's gold mining tour? And that way, we can give our listeners a little bit on what to expect with this upcoming gold mining tour on the 25th, which I think we still have a couple tickets for. But even if we don't, we'll be running this history tour again. So, Hugh, tell us about it.
Well, first off, on the tour, it's not just the gold mining. It also comes with a lot of amazing stories about the past. And the first one is about a guy named Bailey and his supposed treasure that washed down one of the many rivers here and is supposedly around this area.
Right, that you and Harry have actually been digging around our property trying to find with metal detectors,
Yeah,
have you not?
basically.
Yes. So we'll get into that story in Spiteful Cemetery. This is a great ride mixture with green and blues, like all our history tours. And we'll be working our way out to Plymouth Five Corners, and we'll get into some of the amazing history of the used to be a whole town there and everything else. We're going to do some gold panning and really just have an amazing time. What did you like last time we did it here?
I gotta say, the gold panning with it was
Mm-hmm.
just amazing just to try and gold pan and find some gold.
And then we find out why Vermont it turned into a ghost town.
Yeah, we found out Vermont gold mining wasn't really a thing, unlike California.
That is true. So we'll get into that. So that's really cool. On July 1st, we have our second cemetery tour. This one's going to be moving to a new area. We're going to be focusing on the area here in Reading, Woodstock, and that surrounding area in Plymouth. Going to be some amazing history with some Indian stones, Spiteful Cemetery, an incredible, huge cellar hole complex, and some other stuff. So that's really one that we're looking forward to. We had an amazing time a couple weekends back when we ran that one. And then after that, on the weekend of the 29th and 30th, I have my, well, I guess for lack of a better name, Derek's Fat Kid slash Anti-Campsite Cooking Tour, which will be a 2 day event starting in my area down here in Barnard, working our way up to Rochester, and then we're going to be heading up into the Northeast Kingdom and camping up there and have a catered meal at the campsite, and then finishing off with lunch at the incredible Parker Pie. If anyone has ever been up to the Northeast Kingdom, they know of Parker Pie. So that's going to be a really awesome trip. Again, greens and blues only. We'll get that listed on the site in this week, and that'll be limited to 10 vehicles. Really looking forward to that. As many of you know, I appreciate my food, and one of the great things about the Class 4 roads, it brings me to amazing places, be it creamy stands, country stores, or just amazing little restaurants. So everything from we're gonna go to the best creamy stand I thoroughly believe up in Walden to an amazing lunch spot that's inside a bookstore. It just doesn't get more classic Vermonty than that. And then my favorite general store, the Barnard Country Store. So that will be a really cool trip, and it's a proper 2 day trip. And then we're still putting together the aviation archaeology trip. We're just waiting for one final piece to come together. It's a really awesome site. We just want to get access to it legally. People have gone up there without permission. We want to be there with full permission to be there because it really helps tell the story of aviation history in Vermont. So that one is going to be up and coming. But now let's get into what we just did. Hugh, where were we this weekend?
Well, we were up in Concord, I think it was Vermont,
Yep.
and we were doing some of the local trails around there.
And we were up there seeing Steve Wilson and NEK Overland Safari. It was awesome. We saw Labs, we saw Brady, a bunch of other people that we know, and it was just an incredible time. So, Hugh, what did you what did you enjoy about being up there?
Well, just testing the capabilities of like other vehicles, like the Snatch, which is you wouldn't think is capable at all since it's 9,000 pounds and armored, but is extremely capable as we found out with the rear locker.
So, what he's describing is our one of our personal vehicles is a Land Rover 110 Snatch. It was an armored car used in Northern Ireland and Iraq, and it has a little history. It was in Iraq when I was in Iraq, so it's kind of one of my forever revers that I'll never sell. But it recently got upgraded with the new engine, and one of the upgrades also was a rear locker, HD trailing arms, and heavy duty rear axles, and it's really transformed the way the vehicle now does off road. So Hugh got a chance to cruise around in that, and we were keeping up with a bunch of Jeeps on 37s, and we also had Laz up there in his 90, and also the incredible, and I still believe the most capable vehicle that I've ever come across in overlanding, Brady's Pinsgauer 712, which is just does everything so well and also does it gently, unlike my 710 where everything is incredibly violent. So what was it like going from the Snatch where we had to use a lot of power to stop momentum to going to the 712 where you were cruising around with Brady that second part of the afternoon?
Well, one main difference was you could really tell the difference in the ride
Yep.
from the Land Rover's more bumpy to like you had with that middle axle with since it's six wheeled, it really adds it so it's way more stable.
Uh-huh.
And with that, it also makes it a much more smooth ride.
Yep.
But you can also get up to, I feel like, a bit more speed, a bit faster. But one main difference is just the pins does not care about obstacles, unlike the Snatch. The
Um,
pins will not care if you have a rock in
the
your leg.
pins, the Snatch still went everywhere the pins did, but the pins could go farther and beyond. But also, Uncle Brady is an amazing driver, is he not?
Yeah, he's an amazing driver, to
I
be
know. And
fair.
you were cruising around with the Flair, weren't you?
Yep.
And what else did you see when you were up there?
So, well, a moose. The wildlife is not dumb. It will use the trails.
So yeah, we saw you saw a moose running down one of the class fours. We also saw a freedom chicken, bald eagle, hanging out by the Connecticut River. So one of the things is the Northeast Kingdom is an area that I can't recommend enough. It's really what Vermont truly is. So whether it be up in Concord or it be up in Walden or any of those areas up there, um, they are very pro overland, pro UTV, pro anything that is out there enjoying the trails. Whereas the farther south in Vermont you go, the less I don't want to say the less welcome it is, but you definitely encounter less problems. You definitely encounter a lot friendlier people along the trails. So my big push lately with the pilgrimage over the last 2 years has been to find more class four roads and map them. And up in the kingdom is that's generally where there's amazing class fours up there, and also they want our money. They want us to spend our money up there. They want to be up there. They need this, especially with snowmobile season dying. Um, they understand this is their futures, and it's amazing just the difference you see um, when you're out cruising around. The level of how people look at you, and not that I'm saying it can be bad down south. You know, like I don't run into great people down south or in central Vermont. It's just the kingdom everywhere you go is welcoming, and there's just some amazing spots up there from Parker Pie to where we are at Moose, where we are at like the Moose Look Diner, which was really good.
Absolutely.
Um, the Danville Country Store is one of my favorites up in that way. Um, just a lot of really cool stuff up there. So if you can, if you're out cruising this summer, take a look at the maps. Spend some time up in the Northeast Kingdom, especially if you've done a bunch of VOBSs before. We've all kind of done the trails in this area right around where my house is now in Reading, right around where those Plymouth and all that stuff, those trails to death. There is some incredible stuff up in the kingdom, and a lot of it's pretty long. So can't recommend going up there enough. This was also our first weekend camping with properly with Mac. Our, if some of you have seen from the pictures, he's our 4.5-month-old Irish Wolfhound puppy, and he did really awesome for most of the trip. He was kind of a pain in the butt in the evening when Hugh was sleeping in his tent, completely content, while I had a wolfhound that would not settle and breathed incredibly loud in the truck. So he had to get up to go pee about 5 times. But once he did that, he was good. But it was a lot of fun. It was great. Mac is kind of becoming my new overland dog, filling. I don't want to say filling the void, but helping fill the pain of when I lost Ava a couple months back, who was my other overlanding Irish wolfhound. So I really look forward to seeing other people at the events with their dogs. Remember, the pilgrimage is a dog and kid friendly event, so it's we're just trying to get Mac settled into it. And he did. How did he do in the snatch? And we were doing some red level trails, maybe even some pink sections, and like Hugh and Mac were doing awesome. Like, what did you think, Hugh?
I thought he did amazing considering the trails we were doing and how much just off-roading we did within that little time span. He did amazing.
Just content chilling on his Orvis dog bed in the
Absolutely.
middle. Just it was really awesome. So that was a great time, and yeah, we're really looking forward to doing some more events and stuff up in the Northeast Kingdom. Um, Anything else you want to talk about from that weekend, buddy?
I guess like the locations about like that are just amazing locations just around there. You have some amazing little like you might not think it, but there's some amazing just like diners just around there as we found out.
Yep, some cool general stores. So, and the other thing I have to say about the Northeast Kingdom is it has the most impressive views that I come across in Vermont. It just
Absolutely.
is. Um, I'm always amazed at the amount of incredible views when I'm just out cruising when I'm in the Northeast Kingdom. If you want to go for just finding the best sunset or the best views, the Northeast Kingdom is where you're going to go. Also, the Bethel House that is on the map has an incredible sunset, but otherwise, Northeast Kingdom has a view. Plus, you can see all the way out to Mount Washington with some of that stuff. Um, so that was a really cool event. Can't recommend um, that enough. The NEK Overland and Steve Wilson's hospitality. Um, but that's really it for that event. The next thing we're going to talk about is it's a little shorter podcast, but our Pinsgauer 710M. So the story of our 1976 Pinsgauer 710M is a couple years back. I needed a vehicle that could keep up with, I don't want to say the insanity of some of my friends who cruise and do some of the hardest stuff that imaginable, but what was the best way to do it without destroying my Rovers? Because I had pretty much beaten my 1978 Land Rover Ambulance and my 93 Land Rover Snatch into the ground, trying to keep up with Laz and the other crew and Peter and everybody. And I really needed something that had lockers and I didn't overly care about abusing. And then mostly set up for day trips because remember living up here, I didn't always have to go camp. It was mostly day trip stuff. So that led me to hunt down a Pinsgauer. I'd had a 710K before, but at the time I tried to use a Pinsgauer 710K as a daily driver for about a year and a half. And if you've ever been around a Pinsgauer, it has an incredibly distinctive sound. What would you describe its sound like, Hugh?
It's almost like a weird like mix between like just a low roar almost and a loud pitched sound so you can hear it from probably a good quarter mile away anytime.
Yeah, I remember the first time I actually saw the movie Thor. It was on in the other room, and I came in because I heard the Pinsgauer. Nothing else has that sound. Um, I tried to run it as a dealer driver for that long, but they are incredible military vehicles, amazing on the trails. But as soon as you get into that highway regime or like just a lot of driving every day, the Pinsgauer really gets out of its comfort zone. Um, but I sold it and went to a Land Rover 101, which was not the correct answer. We'll go down Land Rover 101s in another episode because my wife and I have a very love hate. Well, I hate them. She loves them. So it's a rather funny story with our 101. We'll go down that. But so I sold it about 10 years ago when he was a baby, and then back in 2020, I found this 710M that was not running in uh, out by Syracuse, New York, for $8,000. Managed to get it back, and it was pretty good mechanical shape. Besides, it just really needed tune up. So, with like about $1,000 worth of parts and tires and everything, I had it running and driving, and then it's kind of evolved since then. Um, we had a custom winch mount put on. Putting a winch on a Pinsgauer with its particular way they do the chassis is not easy, so we had that installed. Um, One of the other things is IR headlights, because like a madman, I like driving around my property wearing night vision goggles, because why not? It's fun. We'll do another episode on maybe when we interview the guys, the instructors. We'll talk about night vision goggles,
Mm.
driving. But anyways, um, so this Pinsgauer has evolved. It's an incredibly capable vehicle. And what makes a Pinsgauer incredibly capable is that it's on portal axles, so you have a huge amount of ground clearance without having to have massive tires, and you have front and rear lockers that you can operate on the fly. So you can engage it into four-wheel drive, rear locker, or front locker at any speeds. Doesn't matter. You don't have to move. You don't have to be stopped to do it or at a slow speed. Um, it's an air-cooled engine, like pretty much similar to a VW bus, and it has a incredibly maddening gearbox that is not straight up or straight down. It's a 5-speed, which is nice, but you have to remember that first is down, so all the gears are not where you normally would expect them to be, and the shifting pattern is just odd. But when it works, it's really good. The other big things with Pinsgauers is they like to bite with the steering. So when you're in heavy terrain, you always have to remember thumbs out. You're going to be driving like you're the Fonz with your thumbs off the steering wheel, because that steering wheel will fly around and try to break your thumb. Or even, I was just looking at the Pinsgauer forums yesterday, and someone was showing a burn that they had from the steering wheel spinning so fast along their skin. So it's one of those vehicles that is incredibly capable, but really deserves your respect. Another fun Pinsgauer thing is they don't like to stop going backwards when on steep terrain. As uh, as as most Pinsgauer owners know, you have to modulate the reverse when rolling backwards with the e-brake, which is a transmission brake, which works incredibly well. Whereas the drums do not seem to work really well when they work-ish, but they don't. They will not stop the vehicle when you're on a decent incline and you're rolling backwards. Um, they're also non-self-adjusting drums, so you have to do the drums like every like 2,000 miles, which is kind of maddening, but it's not the end of the world. It's just annoying. Other than that, it is an incredibly capable vehicle. Um, it can also be a little beast and bite back. It nearly knocked me unconscious. What was it, 2021?
2021.
2021, I was doing a pink trail down in I don't know,
Chester.
somewhere in southern Vermont with a couple of the old VOT reunion guys. And man, I hit my head against the A pillar so hard it nearly knocked me fucking unconscious. So my new rule of thumb is if I'm doing extreme off roading, because it's done it twice, like that was the worst. But
Mm.
I hit my head another time with it. But now I wear a bump helmet and look like a special kid when I drive around in the Pinsgauer when I'm doing extreme off roading, because that A pillar, it
Hurts.
wails shit out of you. And unlike Brady's 712, which kind of like broaches over obstacles, like it reminds me of a shark coming out of the water. Like it happens quickly, but it looks like it's in slow motion.
Absolutely.
They're really cool vehicles. They always have some sort of wheels off the ground when they're doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Brady's does everything like real slow and controlled, whereas mine is like, I don't know, like I imagine it's like a mongoose on like that just did a line of coke. So like nothing is subtle and it's all very quick and violent. And like yes, both things do the same job equally
One.
well. It's just one beats the shit out of you while you do it. Um, so it's a fun vehicle, but it definitely needs respect. Some of you saw from the pictures. I'm not going to get into who did it, but it rolled twice last year and it protected everybody with its roll bar and really didn't have it had minor damage, but like could have been way worse and everyone came out alive, which was awesome. I was not driving, just to be clear, and I wasn't involved in this. But anyways, they're a very tough little vehicle. So the Pinsgauer is when I need something to go, like, I don't know, pre-run the Crack or
Shattergate.
some other stupid crazy trail. The Pinsgauer is what I use because at the end of the day, if the Pinsgauer can't do it, it's not doable. Is really what it comes down to in my mind. Um, and also, I don't overly care if it winds up on its side or it gets body damage or whatever because that's literally its job. And acquisition wise, like price wise, a Pinsgauer you can set up for so much cheaper than a fully locked out Toyota, Jeep, or whatever. It's just the modern stuff is going to do everything besides the off-roading better. Portal axles are incredible, but you do have to maintain them. But in the woods, I don't think anything beats the Pinsgauer 710 and 712. I'm sure a Pinsgauer 716, 718, which I'd love to see. Those are the Pinsgauers with the um, auto boxes, power steering, disc brakes, and liquid cooled engines, so they drive a lot better. But the 710 that we have is a really fun vehicle. You enjoy driving it here,
Yes.
and it's just it is a little workhorse that we use here at the pilgrimage. Um, but yeah, I think that kind of sums up this episode. It's a shorter one. Hugh, our guest host here, will be reoccurring. Also, you guys will be seeing a lot more and hearing a lot more of Hugh. He's going to be recurring guest as my son here on the pilgrimage, and he's also our official weatherman slash photographer, videographer for the pilgrimage because we have pretty much no budget. But I hope you've enjoyed. We look forward to the next podcast, and we apologize that there was a couple week break between the episodes, but we're going to be working on some new content, and we look forward to seeing everybody. So as always, have a great day, and with the pilgrimage motto, always a little farther. I'm Derek, and have a great day.
And I'm Hugh, and have a great day.
Alrighty.